What's going on, Geminites? It's your boy Gem Mint, and this is every statue I've ever owned. Alright, so man, Fee gave me a good idea. She was like, you should make a video of like every statue that you've ever owned, especially since you sold pretty much all of them. And I was kind of known for doing like the every Omnibus so far videos, and it kind of goes into theme with what I do here. Luckily, I do have pictures of all these pieces, so I figure we'll throw up a picture. I'll kind of talk about my history with the piece, what I think about it overall, and things like that. So, the first one we'll throw up is the Sideshow Collectibles Wolverine vs. Hulk Mehcad. This diorama is 1/5 scale. It's the first piece that I ever pre-ordered. What made me pre-order it was picking up the Donatello Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NECA figure, which was quarter scale. And I've seen statues before that, and I just never really understood the price tag that came attached to them. But getting that turtle in, I was like, dang, now I get it. Like, the likeness to the turtle and, like, the size of it. I went right away. I pre-ordered that Wolverine vs. Hulk. And that was February of 2017. I was so anxious to get a piece once I pre-ordered that I went to my local comic shop and I picked these two pieces up. I picked up this J. Scott Campbell Spider-Man comiquette, which I couldn't tell at the time that it was also like 1/5 scale. And I picked that up along with the Sideshow Apocalypse premium format, which I was like, okay, boom, this is the real deal statue. The size of it was just so impressive. I used to picture these with the Omnibus that kind of went with them. And this was before I even moved out here to Texas. These pictures are both taken when I was living in South Florida. Next piece up. This is a piece that I actually gave away for our 10K subscriber giveaway. This is the Sideshow Spider-Man Premium format, which is an awesome piece, man. I can't say enough good things about this. I think it's even still available on Sideshow's website, just not with the exclusive, which who cares if he has the webbing or whatever. It's a great piece. I would have picked it up again, except for I am waiting for their new premium format to come out, because I am going to cop that. Surprisingly, this is the only picture I have of my Green Goblin. Besides, you'll see it in like some group pictures, but the Green Goblin premium format from Sideshow, which didn't have an exclusive, was a great piece as well. I have it here with the Spider-Man PF that I was talking about. It was a companion piece to that. Also a great piece. Around this time in collecting, I started noticing eBay having XM Studios pieces, and they were crazy expensive. And I saw this Thanos piece, and I saw it pictured online next to the Apocalypse premium format, and it was bigger than Apocalypse. So I was like, dang, that's crazy, a huge Thanos piece. So I picked it up, and man, I was disappointed right away. I was disappointed. My first XM piece, the paint was very flat. It just didn't look as detailed as the Sideshow pieces I had. One of the gems off the gauntlet fell off. But the head sculpts were good. It had a lot of different switch outs. Its whole torso basically switched up. And it came with an art print. The packaging was great, but I think I paid like $1,100 for that, and you could probably pick that piece up for like $700 shipped right now. I got it pictured here with a 7.5 Iron Man 55. This piece right here, I didn't even want to show this early in the video because I'm going to get a ton of downvotes. But I used to have some DC pieces. This is the Sideshow Collectibles Batman Premium format, which I hated. I got this piece so cheap, but even in this picture, it doesn't photo well. His pose is awkward as hell. If you face the gargoyle forward, his knee is bent like to the side. If you face him forward, the gargoyle's to the side. I don't know. The cape was this huge sculpted thing, and his costume was mixed media. He was just lame as hell, man. I hated that piece so much, and I got rid of it pretty soon after I got it in. And it was oversized. He's scaled bigger than a 1/4. Now, I only have this one picture of the Dark Side premium format, which I did like. The Dark Side premium format was cool. It was comic accurate. It had good paint apps, but it was boring as hell, man. It was just a boring piece that I ended up getting rid of when I got rid of my DC pieces, and I'll talk about that when I get to the Iron Studios diorama. Then we got this XM Ghost Rider. This was an XM piece that I got in. I got it for a fairly well-priced deal at the time, because this is like 2 years ago. It was like $1,900 shipped. I absolutely loved this piece. I thought it was impressive. It changed my idea, and it kind of changed the game for statues as well as what can be done. I ended up selling that once I moved out here, and I started kind of focusing the collection, and I focused the collection right out. But I just didn't like the fact that you couldn't really just pick it up and move it. Like, you had to dismantle this thing if you wanted to move it. But very dope piece. It's pictured with a 7.0 Marvel Spotlight 5 behind it. This next piece was a piece that it was like a Saturday. I was itching to buy something. I went on the Facebook groups, and Miss Marvel, she used to do YouTube videos, man. I don't see her post videos anymore. But she was selling it for like $700. And at that time, any XM piece you wanted was like 1,000 shipped, no less. So I was like, damn, $700. It was in Miami. I was like, yo, I'll drive down there. And I didn't even meet her, though. Like, her boyfriend had met up with me. And I picked up this Daredevil from her, which I grew to not like either. I just felt like the proportions were off. His leg was super long, and it wouldn't go all the way into the base. His head was super small. And it always smelled like perfume. I guess it smelled like how her house smelled. And every time I would walk in the room, I would smell that perfume with that piece. But yeah, the Daredevil XM. Next up, we got the Sideshow brown suit Wolverine. I got a couple pictures, but both without the mask. Oh no, I think I have one mask. One of them I have a Wolverine 1 9.8 next to it. The other one I have the Wolverine Volume 1 Omnibus. I always liked this piece. I was new to the game when I got it, but I always thought it was pretty cool. Here I have it pictured with Sabretooth once I moved out here to Texas. And it was cool. It gets a lot of hate for not having like hair on his arms or whatever, which it's kind of nitpicky if you ask me. Then, what's funny about this piece, the first YouTube video that I did with Gabe Infinity Watch, and it's still up on his page right now. It's like two years old or so. And we did like a little interview. And as soon as we got done with the interview, got a knock on the door, and a Sideshow Punisher arrived. And I was telling him, like, damn, we could have did this on the show if we would have had just waited a little bit. But this piece was okay. I didn't really love it. It was cool that it had a lot of metal pieces. The bike was cool. But next to Ghost Rider, which was my plan to display like the biker boys, Ghost Rider was just way more dynamic and just blew him out the water. I got it pictured here with a 7.0 ASM 129. Alright, now this is the piece that got me out of collecting DC statues, and I used to watch a lot of unboxing videos. This is before I started my channel, which is why you guys have never seen this. But I saw Cask had the unboxing video. He did it with his kid, and he sold me on it. And I got it in person, and I really liked the sculpt on Doomsday. I really liked the sculpt on Superman's body, but I hated the cape, which was plastic. I hated the portrait, which was like really tan, and it feels like rubber or plastic. And the base I hated too, man. So it was a disappointment, and it was a smaller scale. It's 1/6 scale. So I ended up getting rid of this and saying, you know what? It's too much to collect Marvel and DC. Let me just focus on Marvel. So that's what pretty much all we're going to see now, besides some pop culture shock stuff. Then I have the Spider-Man Symbiote premium format from Sideshow. Great piece. I love it. I might like it even better than the original red and blue. I got it pictured with his first appearance and origin of the symbiote, ASM 252 and Secret Wars 8, which was a great display. I highly recommend that piece. Then I started getting into like, okay, let me hunt down some grails. I hunted down the Venom comic kit. It was the exclusive, which came with a hideous art print, but the exclusive, the guy who sold it off Facebook, it was very well priced at the time. You get the piece in. It's literally two pieces. It's the base and it's Venom, and that's it. No switch outs. It's very simple, which a lot of people like. And I think it was a great sculpt, and the paint was good, but it just was feels undersized. It felt like the scale was just way too small compared to Spider-Man, which just overpowered Venom, and it should be the other way around. So that was the last piece I bought when I was in Florida. I packed up everything and moved it here to West Texas. And while I was, when I first moved out here, I was in an apartment for like 4 months because I got relocated for my job, and I was in the process of looking to buy a house. So for 4 months, you're gonna see these apartment pics, and I got a ton of pieces in. For whatever reason, I just was buying a lot of pieces around that time. Spider-Man Comiquette, great piece. I just recently sold it, and it was good paint, good sculpt, a little bit oversized, but I mean, it never really bothered me that this one was oversized. Great piece. Then these I only have pictured together: the Spider-Man Back in Black Comiquette and the Carnage Comiquette. The Spider-Man Back in Black really impressed me. It's an inexpensive piece, but it's nice. It's a nice little piece. It has a lot of cool Easter eggs in the base. And then you have Carnage, which I hate. I have it pictured here without any tendrils because they were such a pain in the ass to fit in. I had to have my wife fit him in. I couldn't even do it. He was oversized. He was too muscular. And I just always disliked that piece. One of George from Rad Titan's favorites. But I hated it. Alright, then this was the first time that I actually got a pre-order from XM. And it got shipped out to me. It was the Venom. And during like the renders phase or whatever, the prototype phase, I thought this was going to be the best Venom to date. But I don't think it was. There was a lot of things I liked about it. Its size, its weight. It was a cool sculpt. But it had cool different portraits, 3 different switch outs. I didn't like the shiny veins in the symbiote, and I didn't like the skinny legs on the spider emblem on his chest and back. Otherwise, it's still a solid piece. Then we got another Venom one. This was from Hollymal, which is like a customs group. And it was a clunker of a piece, man. A huge base that was bigger than it needed to be. The Venom was okay. It didn't have any pegs or keys. It kind of just sat on top of there. The teeth were kind of jacked up. I've seen other people with this custom that looked better than how mine looked. But this one, I don't know. It was okay. But overall disappointing. Alright, during this time I got the Hobgoblin Comiquette in there. I thought it was really cool at first. Very dynamic. Sculpt was great. Mine looked a little dusty. It is a little bit smaller scale, but not too noticeable. You could still kind of pair it up with quarter scale pieces. The Sideshow Hobgoblin is dope. Alright, then I got into a Hulk phase. I was like, damn, these Hulk pieces are not that expensive. So I got all 6 Sideshow Hulks, man. The 3 Comiquettes and the 3 premium formats. Here's the green one with Avengers 1 7.0, huge book. And all 6 of them pictured together. I like the Red Hulk premium format the best out of the premium formats. And I liked the Gray Hulk the best out of the Comiquettes. As soon as somebody said it looks like he's slipping on a banana peel, I couldn't unsee that, and it killed the vibe for me on that piece. Then I started getting into some video game stuff with Pop Culture Shock. I got Kintaro and Goro in around at the same time. That's them on the little apartment kitchen table. Both are great pieces. I still have Kintaro boxed up in the garage, man, but all the other ones are gone. But they're great pieces. It just sucks how bad they lose their value. That Kintaro I bought retail, like $500. I can't even sell it for $350 right now. Ship. And it's a big box that'll be expensive to ship. Then I got the Sideshow Thing from Fantastic Four. When I put this together, I was like, damn, this feels like classic Sideshow. It just had a different vibe than the Sideshow pieces that I had at the time. It feels like classic, hand-sculpted Sideshow goodness. It was a dope piece. This is the one with the shorts. I think they have a variant that has long pants and boots. But it was the exclusive. It had both heads as well. Oh, man. Talk about disappointment. So then I started getting into 1/3 scale. Here's Scorpion and Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. I liked them. I kind of liked them in the pictures. I think like everybody else from the prototype. But these ones just felt like big-ass dolls for like $750 each. Man, I felt like I got off that. Then I got the Akuma. And even that one, that was like a grail when it came out, man. And it didn't feel like a doll. It felt much better than the Ninjas, but it still plummeted in value. And PCS, man, just altogether ended up being a huge disappointment. Alright, so at this point, I'm in the house that you see right now. I picked up 3 pieces from somebody I used to talk to on Facebook. This was a custom chromed Silver Surfer comiquette, which I always kind of disliked how dark it looked. It looked like chrome instead of silver. My buddy A-Tim got the silver one. I always talked about trading with him. I liked how they custom painted the base, but I just, the dark chrome did always kind of bother me. Here it goes pictured with Galactus, which Galactus is a great piece, man. You can see how this picture looks. They look very epic together. And you'll see some group shots later with them that look really good. Picked up this Gladiator Hulk from him. I was very impressed with this piece as well. I think it looks great. At this point, I was really big on picking up variants. Like every Hulk, I had to have the variant of, and before you knew it, I had like 9 Hulk statues. As you can see, next up, I ended up getting the King Hulk shortly after. But you can see the waist where he's no longer sculpted, and I could never get the belt to stay up, and that always bothered me. But got him pictured with the Omnibus. Then we got, so what happens to me, like, I was reading Hellboy, I was loving it, I had to buy the statue. I bought the Sideshow comic version statue. It was a dope piece, but it quickly got kicked out because, I don't know, I guess I was caught up in the moment with reading Hellboy. The same thing's happening right now with watching Dragon Ball Z. Now I really want that Prime1 Goku, but I probably should remember Hellboy, and that I don't really love the character. I just am into it right now. Alright, so at this point, I had a couple of quarter-scale Mortal Kombat pieces, so I started picking up the male ninjas and the female ninjas, which were very inexpensive. Picked up Sub-Zero and Scorpion, $200-$300 each. No big deal. Then I picked up Smoke, was the third ninja, and I picked up Reptile, which I don't think I have a picture of. Then I picked up 3 custom painted ones. One was painted to look like Ermac, one was painted to look like Rain, and the other was painted to look like Noob Saibot. So then I was a little bit overwhelmed too. I'm like, man, I have all these damn Mortal Kombat ninjas. But so I ended up getting all those, and then Melina and Jade. And they still haven't made a katana to go with this line. That's kind of one of the reasons why I was out on that. I ended up getting Liu Kang and Raiden here, which I wasn't big enough into the community yet to know how much people hated that Liu Kang. But I had to have them all, man. That's just how I collect. Alright, and then here goes like a group shot with all those pieces at once. I don't have Shao Kahn at this time yet, but you'll see him in a little bit. At this point, I had a ton of pre-orders, and Sideshows finally started shipping, man. The Venom Sideshow, didn't like the texture on the skin at all. The avocado texture, the base, I didn't really like either. Or the pose. So I got this piece, and I got rid of it probably not too long after. Their Carnage, on the other hand, their premium format, I love. I think it's the best Carnage to date. I love this piece. I thought everything about it was great, and I stand by that. Alright, man. Then the big boy came through. Thanos on Throne, Mehcad by Sideshow. At this time, I was getting a little bit more confident with the channel. I did an unboxing for it. I did a review, and man, that video at the time of releasing this has 100,000 views, and I think that really kind of helped put me on the map. That and another piece that I'm going to show you shortly. But here's a picture of Thanos with Silver Surfer and Galactus. I had this set up in a PAX unit from IKEA, which was really, I really liked it at that time. That was a cool setup. I don't have a picture of this piece that I own. I think it's in the background of a couple of pictures that you'll see throughout this video. But this Maniac, Venom, and Sewer, this video kind of put me on the map with YouTube as well, because I kind of bashed it. And I didn't really know I was just being honest. I wasn't really thinking about anything else. And people really liked that about that review. But it was just a really big, huge piece, and it was broken, and it pissed me off when I got it. Alright, here goes an OG classic Sideshow Collectibles Captain America that I hated. Man, people would hype this piece up, so somebody was selling it at a good price, the exclusive, and I got it in, and I hated it. I hated the fabric mixed media. I hated how he was kind of looking up, and it was very hard to... You couldn't really put him high up in the display, and if you put him low, it looked weird. I ended up getting rid of this and breaking it as I was packaging it to sell it. And luckily, man, the person who bought it was like, oh, that's cool, I'll just get it fixed. I was like, what? Straight up. Then I started going down the road of life-size busts. First things I got were the Pop Culture Shock. I think I got Akuma and Ryu first from like a 32% off Halloween sale they had when they had their own site. I got them in. They were impressive as hell. They were lifelike. They were life-size, and they were just dope, man. I really did like those busts. I went ahead and got the Scorpion and Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 9. Loved those. I did reviews on those. Even though they didn't get much love, I loved them, and I decided to start getting Marvel life-size busts. So I got in Thor, which even in picture looks really good. The paint looks great. This thing weighs about the weight of a feather. It was hollow as hell. It really turned me off with how it felt. And yeah, I mean, it was a great piece, but I was really turned off by that. I ended up also getting the Captain America life-size bust, which was super boring. Once I got it, I did not really like it. It was also very hollow. Although this picture of Cap and Thor together in a pack, it looks really good, this picture. But all the Marvel life-size busts were a huge disappointment. Here goes the Venom one, which was already controversial because he looks like very alien. He doesn't really look comic accurate. But I ended up picking him up. I liked it all right. Again, very hollow. And then I got the life-size Carnage as well, which was very bird-like. I think this was the last Marvel bust I got in was the Wolverine Berserker. And he had that Gary Busey mouth. And he had his eyeballs instead of the whited out eyes. Shortly after that, I decided to sell my life-size bust. And I'll talk about that in a second. Alright, next up. This was a piece that kind of also put me on the map for YouTube. The unboxing of this Spider-Man 2099 from Prime1 Studios, where I broke it. And I got visibly pissed. And I didn't edit my videos at the time. So it was like a whole 30-minute video. I'm walking down the stairs to get batteries. Some guy talked mad shit on YouTube and on Facebook. And even though I was mad that he was talking shit at the time, it kind of motivated me to buy this MacBook, learn how to edit my videos. So now everything you see, I don't know if you guys noticed, I edit all this, and everything you see, I pretty much do it, except for if you see, like, Manimal will shoot his videos, but I do chop them up and edit them. Anyway, the Prime 1 Spider-Man 2099, the body is great, the paint is great, the cape sucks, the base sucks. The base feels like plastic and cheap, and it's just not sturdy enough. The engineering on it was just whack, man. All right, next up, this custom opened up Pandora's box for me, man. This was a Weapon X custom from like one of the Elite custom groups, Elite paint job. I think I spent, which I thought was a lot at the time, was like $2,200-$2,300, which is probably a great price for this piece now. Dope piece. It's a very sought after custom. Very hard to get in that group. This custom right here, I'm very kind of happy for because I pre-ordered this. This is Maniac Venom. The sewer one was Venom Unhinged. This Maniac Venom on Water Tower, I pre-ordered this off top because it was the first Venom statue that I saw with a Bagley portrait, and it wasn't even hot at that time. Nobody wanted it, right? As soon as it started coming out and getting shipped, everybody jumped on the hype train. It sold out, and then it started like doubling, tripling in price. You can see it pictured here with the ASM 300.98. But I jumped on that one before the hype. Here goes XM Studios Carnage. Hated it. Base was super bland. No detail. One color. I didn't like the texture. It was also avocado textured. Tentacles were a bitch. A lot of switch outs, but I hated this piece. I sold it to Mac Main. Shout out to Mac Collections. He wanted it, hey. Got this XM Jean Grey for a good price. I was really impressed by this piece. The translucent resin was impressive. The color on the Sentinel, she never really keyed in all the way. And the seams for the Phoenix were terrible. You could even see the metal rods in the resin. But still a cool piece. XM Cable was kind of a hype train piece. I mean, it's a cool piece, but it's definitely kind of boring. I like the switch outs. I like putting the gun on his shoulder, and you can put his arm out on a Sentinel base, kind of. You know what it is? It's not that it's boring. It's just very realistic, where I kind of prefer more modern, more comic accurate looks. And in the background, you can see actually both of those Venom customs, the Unhinged and the Maniac. Then this is a piece that the story behind this is that I got a bonus at work, and I never thought I would pay for this piece, but boom, I got the bonus. I bought the Magneto on Throne from XM. I love the intricacy of it. I love the storytelling of the base. It did always bother me that it was a little bit underscaled though, but still a great piece. After the 2099 disappointment, Prime 1 with the anti-Venom came through, and I was super impressed by the detail and texturing on the body. The base was cool. That big wraparound symbiote thing, which was kind of like rubbery, was a little weird. It was unnecessary. I've seen people display without it. But that piece really impressed me. Here we got the last Mortal Kombat piece, I think. No, it's not. The last quarter scale Mortal Kombat was the Shao Kahn Bloody exclusive. It was alright. It looked like Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat 2. I mean, what more could you ask for? Pop Culture Shock in the house again with the Ryu 1/3 scale. It was okay. I mean, I paired him up with Akuma. I don't even really remember having this piece. It's just forgettable. Then we got the Sideshow Sentinel. What's funny about this picture is that the way that my desk is angled and the way that I took the picture, everybody on Instagram thought I bought a life-size Sentinel, that he was like floor to ceiling in the room. But it was a cool piece. I was worried it was going to feel like a toy, and it didn't. It was a cool piece. Then what happened was I decided to sell all my life-size busts and dedicate to my favorite character and get all Spider-Man related pieces. So I sold them all. I bought like 7 or so Spider-Man pieces from Todd Johnson from speculative.fiction.com or whatever. And they all came in at once. So I unboxed a new Spider-Man villain every day, and I was like, oh, I'm going to call this Spider-Man Villains Week. And I didn't really know it at the time, but a lot of people were drawn to the YouTube channel because of that, man. A lot of people remember that. So the first one was Vulture. I was crazy impressed by the wings, how tall it was when it was perched up on the highest level. It was like 30-something inches tall. And I always just commended XM for doing Vulture, man, because he's such like a low-tiered villain. Then I had Mysterio. Was a very cool piece. Looking back at it, the cape kind of lacks paint details. It's just kind of one flat color, but otherwise it was a very dope piece. I love the switch outs, except for the unmasked portrait was unnecessary. Looking back at Lizard, it's an impressive piece, but the base is very big. Recently, I've seen some dude on Facebook like chop it down and make a very small base for it, which I really liked. This piece always felt more realistic than comic book version, and I didn't really like that because like Mysterio and Vulture and Electro felt very comic book, yet Lizard felt like he was out of a movie. Speaking of Electro, I like the Electro piece well enough. The base I didn't really love, like with the big pylons with the rubber cables or whatever. But the sculpt was cool. It's a Daniel Bell sculpt who works for Sideshow now. Sandman, I was super impressed. I think that's still the most impressive one with how large those switch out sand hands are and the texture of the sand, how it feels real. It's just very massive, the width of this piece. I love the XM Sandman. XM Kraven, whack. At the time, I was kind of impressed because you get a big lion with it, but it was a very boring piece. I understand that Marvel made them make a lot of changes to Kraven, which hurt it. But I like how somebody said Kraven is the alpha. He would never hide behind the lion like that. That's a good point. XM Kingpin. Man, it's kind of cool. He's kind of a Kingpin on Throne, and I'm like the gem pin, right? So you would think I love it, but his portrait was off. He just, the paint lacked details in his blazer and on his pants, and I don't think I have the chessboard pictured with it, but the chessboard was pretty cool. Sideshow Rhino Comiket was dope, man. I think the detail looks great. It was light as a feather though, but to me it never really took away from the piece. I felt comfortable having it on that top shelf of that PAX since it was so light. Next up, we got the custom Scarlet Spider in. I liked it a lot. It had some breakages to it, but otherwise, I was very happy with the piece. I thought it was a cool addition to the Spider-Man wall. Then the last pop culture shock piece I got was the Reptile. Huge disappointment. Felt undersized compared to the other ninjas. Was made from a different factory. But what was dope about this is that Ed Boon, who is... Well, he's very humble. He calls himself the co-creator of Mortal Kombat because he created it with John Tobias. But John Tobias hasn't been working on the game with him for a long time now. So he's really like the head face of Mortal Kombat. He tweeted this... he tweeted the unboxing I did of this, and it ended up getting like 35,000 views off of that. But how about I couldn't monetize the video because I had the Mortal Kombat movie song in there. So because I have a song in one part of the movie, that means the whole video I didn't get paid for. But it was still cool to see Ed Boon retweet my video, man, because I was reading GamePro interviews from Ed Boon when I was like 10 years old, man. Shit was cool as hell. What's also super sad about that is that tweet came out like the same day that hero statue collector Lou passed away, man, from Immortalized in Stone. And I was in San Diego for Comic-Con. So I was like a very cool moment, and it was also a very sad moment. This next one is the XM Studios Thor quarter scale bust, which I didn't buy. It was a gift from my man Ben Toe that we used for a giveaway for the channel. I think it's Chucharik Brothers, same people who did Hulkbuster, which we'll get to. It was an alright piece. I mean, if I'm going to get a bust, I'm going to get a life size. These next couple pieces actually were not mine, but since I had them in the Gempire and I did videos for them, I think I thought I would speak on them. The old school Cyclops premium format from Sideshow. Portraits are very dated. It didn't age well altogether. That's all I'm going to say about Cyclops. Colossus was pretty cool. The costume is a little pajama-ish. And I'm just not really a fan of museum poses. But otherwise, he was a very tall, impressive piece. He was a cool Colossus. Same with this Green Goblin life-size bust. I didn't love it. I didn't really like the artistic take on Green Goblin. It looks like the same artist who did the life-size Joker bust, which is dope. But the Green Goblin, it's not really my Green Goblin. This is another one. It was like a 1/6 scale Black Widow that was donated from one of the Geminites that we used for a giveaway. I really just can't get into those smaller scale pieces. Alright, then we got this custom Morbius. It was a cool piece. That was a Franco Carlissimo. I have a lot of his stuff on pre-order, and this was the only one I think I've ever had in hand so far. It was a cool piece, a well-deserved addition to the Spider-Man wall. Then here we go, the big boy Hulkbuster. Man, this piece was huge. I was sweating putting it together. The unboxing just hit 100,000 views as well. It was a great piece, but it was like the time where it was like the Ghost Rider thing. I was like, I can't pick this up and move it by myself. It's too big. Get it out of here. It was impressive engineering, though. Then we got Daniel Bell Captain America Sideshow Premium format, which was dope, man. I really like this piece. Even though it's pretty basic, it's not boring. It's a great piece, that cap. Here's a cool picture of Captain America with Hulkbuster in a PAX unit. Alright, this next one is a custom that kind of got a lot of hate, man. The Hobgoblin Custom. I would say it got a lot of hate from like more old school collectors, but I gotta tell you, man, casual collectors, new collectors always love this piece. People always ask me if I'm going to sell it to them. And I always like to joke around and say it's the best quarter scale Hobgoblin out there because it's the only one. Next up, XM Studios Moon Knight. I was not impressed by this piece. I thought it was very boring. I was turned off with the cape and how it didn't sit flush and how he felt wiggly in the peg on the foot. Luckily, a good buddy of mine is a big Moon Knight fan and he took it off my hands. Now, the XM Studios Scorpion, on the other hand, was a very impressive piece. It was loved by everybody. Nothing bad to say about it. I actually sold it for like more than double on eBay when I went to sell it. Here's another one, man. This custom Jubilee got a ton of shit for it, man. I ended up buying it because it was a good price. I was getting X-Men stuff. There was really no other Jubilee pieces out there. And I got to tell you, man, it got so much hate. But when I went to sell my statues, it was like the first one I sold like that. And people were hitting me up like, damn, you sold Jubilee? So it's kind of another one where more of the general audience appreciated that piece. All right, next up, this was the first time I purchased an unpainted kit and had to find my own painter and have them painted. I gave them like the direction. It's the Age of Apocalypse Weapon X and Jean Grey. They came out great. I was happy with them. Although I didn't really like Jean Grey as much. I really just got her because she was a companion to Weapon X. I ended up selling them to a buddy of mine. Next up, the Iron Studios Punisher. This was a cool piece, man. Very comic accurate. Had a ton of switch outs. Got a picture here next to two ASM 129s. This is one that got a lot of hate off of initial pictures, but once it was in hand, a lot of people liked it. Unfortunately, mine was broken at the leg, and Sideshow said Iron Studios did not have any replacements, so they offered me either like a $70 credit or refund the whole thing for my money back, so goodbye. XM Studios Storm is a beloved piece, man. I have some issues with it. The hair, the hair they were very prone to breakage. I had to actually get a replacement. I actually broke off an earring when I was shipping it, when I sold it, and I let the guy know and everything. And it had like an ugly piece on the base, man, with a very ugly seam. But people love this piece. I don't think it was necessary to have two sets of arms with two different capes. I think that was too much, and it just wasn't needed. But the XM guys always try to give you more bang for your buck, man. I love XM. You know, I just don't always think they hit home runs. This was one of them that people love it, but I had some issues with it. It looks good, though. This one, the Spider-Man Doppelganger. This was a piece that I commissioned from beginning to end. Got a sculptor, helped with the concept and the idea, and sent it to a factory. Had it made, had it painted, got it in hand, and I'm super happy with it, man. I love this piece. It's one of the 3 pieces that I have right now, and it was a super cool experience. I got it pictured here with a 9.8 of his first appearance. All right, next up, Prime1 Studio Venom. At this time, I had sold all my Venoms. I said Prime1's going to be the definitive Venom. And I think that it is, man. Best portraits in the game. Huge, impressive body. Huge base, which is probably bigger than it needed to be. And I think it is the definitive Venom. I just realized that I don't like when companies have all these small, fragile pieces. Little tentacles, little spiders, little this, little that. It becomes less of a statue and more of like a puzzle that you got to put together. So that's something that I'm looking at with future purchases. If it's got a lot of intricate pieces, man, I'm out. Here's a good picture of it next to Anti-Venom. They paired up nicely in the PAX unit there. And here's a shot of the Spider-Man villain wall before the Miles Morales came in. But with all the pieces there, it looked good. Next up, we got the Sideshow Daredevil by Daniel Bell. Was a nice piece. It was a little boring, but no complaints on anything about it. It was pretty cool. This was the second time I purchased an unpainted kit and sent it somewhere to get painted and gave them the art direction, and I had it match the custom Weapon X, not Age of Apocalypse, the snow-based one. It was the same creative team, and I wanted it to match. I took some creative liberties with the hair. I wanted the hair on the head to match the hair on his mane and on his arms and legs, and I think it came out way better. The comic accurate one has like the white mane, but to me that clashes with the blonde hair. This is still in the garage, man. I got somebody buying it on payment plans. Miles Morales by Sideshow. Very impressive base, very small piece. It was a cool addition to the Spider-Man wall, but well, not much more to say about it. It was cool. The Mystique by Sideshow. This piece had a lot of problems. Mine had less than others. But it kind of just let me realize that I don't really like museum poses. I'm a more fan of dynamic stuff. And this piece was one that just like solidified that for me. Like this next one, Sideshow's Daniel Bell Thor, Breaker of Brimstone premium format. I love this piece, man. I thought it was awesome. Mixed media cape, I never really got the hang of, but I think it's a great piece. If I ever had to go back and buy a Thor piece, I probably would pick this one up again. Great piece. Here's a picture of it with Thanos on throne and like a little cosmic thing I was doing. Then we got a piece that Ben Toe sent us again for the 25,000 subscriber giveaway. The XM Studios Captain America. It was alright. Pretty boring piece, but if you're a Cap fan, It's better than the old school Sideshow premium format. But I think I like the Daniel Bell one better. The most recent piece that I got in from Sideshow, it's a home run. It's Rogue Mehcad. It's awesome. I think it looks great. Everything about it, from the base to the sculpt to paint, everything is dope. And her head fits on the old school Rogue, so if you have that, you can replace the hideous head that comes with that. Lastly here, I didn't have any good pictures of Hobgoblin or Carnage, so there's a picture there when I first got Bestas and first put lights in them. And I don't have any pictures of the Sideshow Black Cat, robbing the bank one, which wasn't my piece, but I did an unboxing of it. And I'm sure there's probably other pieces that I forgot, and for whatever reason didn't have pictures for. But that is every statue that I've ever owned, and I've sold them all. I decided that, I was tired of looking at the same old shit. Sold them all, but I'm not out of the game. Just got in Rogue. I just pre-ordered 4 pieces from Sideshow the other day. Logan, Sabretooth, Gladiator Hulk, and Cable. And I still have a ton of pre-orders left from XM through customs and such. So I think I'll make a video of what I have on pre-order so you guys can see. I'm still in it, baby. And I'll just adapt as the pieces come in as far as the setup is concerned. Anyway, AC done kicked on. That's my cue to get up out of here. Let me know, what was your favorite piece that had grazed the Gempire in all these pictures? Any comments below? I know you're going to sound off on how I shouldn't have sold it or whatever. Let me hear it. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more daily content and future statue unboxing and reviews, man. They are coming. Juggernaut's coming. Punisher's coming. Man, we got a lot, man. Stay minty. Peace.